So now it's my pleasure to introduce our presenters for today. So Ashish is with us from Dotin Incorporated. Ashish is focused on cultivating strategic relationships for Dotin. He has spent the last 10 years in business stakeholder roles supporting SaaS AI B2B ventures. Passionate about supporting the convergence of technology and the human element, Ashish aligns with Dotin Incorporated's vision. Dotin is an award-winning innovative work in AI software, has attracted international attention. It's recognized for its real-time ability to leverage cognitive insights in the workplace and across markets. Dotin is making a tangible impact on the new enterprise talent lifecycle. Ashish, welcome. We're really excited to have you with us. Ashish, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Thank you so much, Sheila, and happy Friday to everybody. I really appreciate everybody joining on the day, and really looking forward to kind of talking through a little bit about how AI and passive candidates together can come and develop this competitive edge or competitive strategy. And here at Dotin, we're very excited to be partnered with Ceipal, as together with the power of orchestration and prioritization and the intelligence aspects in terms of learning more about attributes around people, Dotin plus Ceipal brings something very unique to the market. And I think that very much supports the content of today's presentation. So with that said, I'll just share my screen here. And so I'd like to start with just giving a little bit of an overview in terms of how Dotin has built our AI, and speaking to some of the important points, because in order to use AI effectively in the market, it's important that the efficacy of the solution is established, and that's kind of where our journey began. In 2014, Dotin started with this problem statement of trying to best understand people. And we started to look at different attributes around people and understanding these patterns in terms of how somebody consumes information, how their different attributes around the subconscious kind of align. Yielded 3 years of research with building base models, incorporating studies that took the scientific approach and leveraged a diverse batch of candidates, both from a standpoint of people that span the globe, equal distribution of male and female, and that 20,000 or so data set of initial participants were used to help to create the model. And the first product that we had come out with was a 1-minute workplace personality assessment. And this was a very unique product in the sense that we're able to assess not only quick and accurate insights, but do so without asking questions. So the reduction of bias became an important core competency as we started. And that first solution kind of expanded into a pretty robust offering in terms of screening for enterprise and other recruiter use cases. But also we then took that to where the market dictated, which was passive candidate sourcing. We took a database of 480 million passive profiles that we were able to cultivate through key relationships, and then pre-process with certain attributes around RIP. And it's important to just call that out so that the underpinning models in terms of the AI aspect that were built were very much honed in, and then we went to market and built some great partnerships, including our partnership with Ceipal. And to see where AI can actually make an impact in the market is important. And by leveraging the power of the prioritization aspect of AI and doing so in a manner where we can support the human decision, because that's the key. AI brings efficiency. There's a reduction in cost per hire of 60%. And we were able to kind of benchmark this through a few relationships with our partners where they saw the tangible output in terms of higher volume recruiting. We were also able to see the impact in terms of accuracy. And by this, I mean accuracy of placement. And at a 91% correlation to what an organization would notice, post 6 months at a performance review checkpoint, for example, what we found is the ability to use AI in this kind of modeling or ideal model aspect allowed us to yield a 91% accuracy in comparison to that. So the quality of placement became very clear. But not only that, once you start to find that alignment, and that alignment that goes beyond just the hard skills, for example, for an individual, we saw that retention increased. And this was done through a high volume use case with A&W, which was basically fast casual model where they had massive churn issues. And so we're able to find that alignment and drive retention. But even more exciting, we're able to also see that AI, when used the right way, can also yield top line growth. And here we were able to work through some of our partners and identify that selections using the Dotin predictive model were performing at a higher level in terms of salespeople meeting their incentives. So this was kind of a good aha moment, but also showing that the approach can be really powerful when you start to look at the global talent pool. Now, according to the LinkedIn talent statistics, 70% of the global workforce is made up of passive candidates. And these folks are those that aren't actively searching, those folks that we probably can't find on the job board. And 15% of the global talent pool is in kind of a semi-active role. They might be reaching out within their network or looking for similar opportunities. And 15% are kind of active job seekers. So of these, another stat that kind of stood out to me was 87% of all job seekers are actually open to exploring a new opportunity or engaging with a recruiter. So setting the context, that creates the value proposition in a way of why it's important to kind of look at these candidates. And to kind of break down that 70% of the global talent pool, this study here is also sourced through LinkedIn Talent Solutions. And here they took about 18,000 global candidates and polled them. And of those candidates, about 12% were actively looking, 13% were kind of in a casual, looking a few times a week, checking their network, 15% were more active in terms of reaching out, but 45% said they were open to talking to a recruiter. And so that shows that there's a huge opportunity of engagement. If the strategy is used correctly and you can create a pipeline leveraging passive candidates, the misconception is that only 15% are actually stuck in their role. So there's quite a bit of opportunity to address this huge competitive edge that you might have with 70% of the workforce. Now, 15% of the workforce are considered active. Now, not only is this a smaller pool of talent, typically speaking, the best talent might be employed, or the best targeted talent or the best, ideal talent, might be inaccessible. And you also are competing with several other recruiters and other conduits to get those candidates placed. And we also tend to notice that the cost of sourcing increases in that competitive space. And here you might actually find folks that are embellishing their profiles a bit more, trying to be more marketable. So getting that, authentic kind of read in terms of a candidate becomes all the more important, and especially today in the remote world. In fact, what we're typically seeing is a projection. And when we look at profiles, this virtual persona is something that typically is what we see in a resume or based on filters and tagging. We're looking at who on paper might be a perfect candidate, top fit, going to change the world. But sometimes what you end up finding that the true persona of this individual creates a misfit. And this can drive a lot of rehiring and inefficiencies in the market. And it's important to call out because today, as we noticed, a lot of the global talent pool wants to stay remote, for example. And when we start to look at that disconnect a little bit with a little bit more focus, what we find is that core motivation and values is that disconnect. So we put a lot of effort into looking for skills and experience when it comes to hiring, but looking deeper and understanding that core motivation in context with the world today. For example, can they work virtually? Can somebody deal with uncertainty? How is their stress tolerance? These are very intangible, but very important considerations. And if there is a way to kind of balance this equation where we can understand from a deeper perspective, the core motivation, the values, the attributes around individuals, and leverage skill and experiences together, that data can really yield not only the most accurate kind of output, but also can be done in a way that gives a clear competitive edge. And most importantly, by understanding people in the most authentic manner and the most ethical way, we can really create the future of where recruiting can go. And so when we take AI-powered passive candidate sourcing into consideration, not only are you tapping into this expanded candidate pool, 70% of the global talent pool, but by taking the AI aspect of identifying values and identifying the cognitive insights and cultural level alignment together, we create an equation where not only do we have the broader scope, but we have the focus, and we're driving a tremendous ROI in terms of a 1/10 acquisition cost as it compares to your typical active checkpoint. So this is where the vision is in terms of the technology and blending the technology together with the human decision in the most efficient way. And I think what's also important to understand is that in order to make decisions around, or not necessarily just make decisions, but empower decisions around the candidate equation, it's important to align to certain industry standards. And that's a piece that we took seriously in terms of looking for the most broad kind of databases and taxonomies out there. So for example, by understanding a requirement from standpoint of job title and description, and then leveraging a database called ONET, which is a database put out by the United States Department of Labor that encapsulates pretty much every job and gives detailed insights into the technical skills, the soft skills, and other attributes, we found that this is a true north, if you will, that we can align to help create directional stability and also keeping it impartial alignment. When we look at understanding people, we looked to education and found that Gartner's theory of multiple intelligences was an important one in that we could find the way that an individual consumes information. So by having that detailed insight, there are certain outputs in terms of engagement, and not only engagement, there's also ways to look further and look at personality as it pertains to the workplace. And here, to find cultural alignment, we can look at Holland's occupational insights for an individual's working style by, for example, finding alignment between roles. A role might require somebody to be enterprising. You might be able to assess that quality quickly in terms of understanding in a big picture what that talent can actually bring to the table. And to kind of see how this workflow might work in terms of the real world, by starting with a job title and description, what the system can do is understand the unique words in that job title and description and aligning those unique words to that industry standard, as I mentioned, in that ONET database, and also looking at the subtle aspects of what kinds of cultural attributes and soft skills, this ideal model can be created in real time. And then the competitive edge now is if you have the ability to look at candidates through the lens of an ideal model, you can not only have this broad capability of 480 million candidates available that are all compliant in terms of GDPR, so publicly available information is the key, and then using the power of AI together, coming back with an overall score that is very powerful in terms of prioritization. But beyond that, because we can understand an individual, we can get cues into how to best engage this talent. And also looking at the current model, work from home becomes very important. And to understand individuals' capability to work from home, you also have to see if they are resilient, because there's a lot of change in the world right now, and that stress tolerance and adaptability, these unique values that can be addressed at this early stage of targeting, can simply add a lot of value to support that remote equation. And beyond that, you can take a look at some tangibles in terms of individual characteristics, engagement insights, and take this to a competitive edge where you can actually attract that talent based on where their affinities lie. So this deeper view can help on overall scoring and prioritization on scale, and drill down to the individual value with regards to engagement insights. And it's important to call out that any technology platform needs to be built in the right way. So from the ground up, what Dotin's been able to do is really work with some key accelerators and initiatives out there. We were lucky to work with Columbia University in their Capstone project to help to research and even bolster our IP. What we also were able to work with PwC in a GovScale initiative in the UK, which focused on efficacy of solutions. So by using these accelerators and other channels, we were able to quickly build a solution that is robust in terms of enterprise use cases, but also the cutting edge or leading edge of technology built the right way. And that's very important to just mention that. But more importantly, I appreciate the opportunity to kind of go over on a high level how the competitive aspects of a passive candidate sourcing powered by AI works. And based on that, I'll pass it over to you, Sheila, for any questions.
Great, thank you, Ashish.